Hello, and welcome to a Christmas edition of It's Tea Time with Tony Westwood and myself, Neville Gaunt. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Neville. How are you today?
Really good, really good. And we've got our Christmas hats on because we're going to give people a bit of a surprise at the end of the video. Now, one thing I wanted to recap on is some of the feedback we've been having over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And the most important feedback I've got, Tony, was that people are now understanding the importance of layering, getting the foundation right. And remember, for those that are listening, we haven't even got out of the foundation yet. We've been doing some simple tactics, techniques over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and people are suddenly realizing that you need to go back to those basics to build up. What sort of feedback you've been having?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, obviously been involved in the golf world for almost 40 years. I think really why what we're doing is so significant is the golf industry or let's say golfers believe that if they can go and watch a video, they can listen to the video and they can go straight to the driving range or straight to the golf course and they can just go ahead and do it without any practice, without any preparation. Oh, this person's told me to stop my slice. I've got to do this. I'll do this. It worked once and then I'm back to slicing it again. So they assume it's going to be one very quick fix and everything's going to be sorted. You only have to look. I mean, I've been read magazines and golf media for many, many years. 40 years ago, on the front page of Golf Monthly or Golf World or whatever, every year you could guarantee there's going to be an article of "Stop your slice forever," and it kind of comes round year on year on year. Well, surely if we'd done the first article, it was done right, then everybody would not be slicing anymore. And if you're a right-handed golfer, you wouldn't be going to the right and left-handed going to the left. It really doesn't happen. So the feedback from my side is with the guys who I'm coaching who are getting into what we're talking about. I asked three of them yesterday. I said, "So have you still been working on the wrist hinge and practicing it? And even if it's only just a couple of minutes every day or every other day, we're not talking you've got to spend an hour a day doing this stuff. It's those little repetitions over and over and over again. Have you been doing it?" Well, yeah, we've kind of done it, and we're getting better at it, but it's not easy, is it? Well, no, the process is simple, but it just isn't easy, and you have to train yourself to be able to do these things. But just like we will all learn to walk and we learn to write, if we do them more and we repeat them, we get better at them. And that's it in essence, really. It's all about doing it incrementally, but doing it regularly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it is, as your guys were saying, they come and pay you for professional lessons. And when you ask them the question, so did you practice what we did last week? Some will say, well, yeah, but I wasn't sure it was working, And the thing is, well, if you don't practice, you're never going to get good at it.
Absolutely.
And these little lessons we're doing on here, and they are little lessons, it's what every top-notch golfer knows that they have to do. So let's just take a bit of a run through of the top tournaments. I mean, there isn't a tournament in the world now that isn't on TV somewhere.
Correct, yeah.
And the pundits are going to be there 3 or 4 hours before the tournament starts, and they're there a couple of hours after the tournament finishes. And what we see regularly is we don't always see the golfers on the course. We see the build-up. Yeah. And a golfer, top pro, will turn up about 3 hours before tee-off. And what's the first thing? Well, maybe not the first thing. First thing maybe is they go have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. but what do they do next?
They kind of go to the practice ground.
They kind of do, don't they?
I don't know. I don't know of many. I mean, the only one I would recount that goes doesn't go to the practice ground as much. There was an article the other day playing on the Champions Tour in the States, and it was this is John Daly arriving at the practice ground at 11:31, and his tee time's 11:51. So Big John has always done it his own way from when he burst on the scene to win the PGA Championship many years ago. But the guys who were competing, who were there week in, week out, the guys who were just there on tour, trying to earn their stripes, they're all going to have their own routine. And their own routine could be anything from 2 hours practice to an hour and a half practice. They've worked out what exactly works for them. You know, Monty famously went and did plenty of putting, plenty of short game, and then hit 26 shots with his clubs on the practice ground. But that's what he did. And we can't argue with that purely and simply because he won, was it 7 or 8 European Tour type, champion golfer of the year titles in a row, order of merit titles. So he had his way of doing things. And they've all got their own routines, much like we've all got our own routines for getting ready in the morning. You know, we've got a routine and we like that pattern to work, when we put the kettle on, when we have our Weetabix, when we then get the preparation to get out to go to the car. If something interrupts that, a telephone call, the shower isn't working, there's no hot water, it creates an annoyance that's kind of, unfortunately, can set us up for the rest of the day, can't it? All of a sudden our attitude and behaviour change, and all of a sudden we're rushing to tube, or we're jumping in the car and the traffic lights are all on red, and before we know it, we're in a bad mood all day. So yeah, it's having that preparation, doing the same things over and over and over again.
And the important thing is, when these golfers do go on that range, on the practice area, they've got their own routine to go through that. As you said, Monty hits a number of shots. He probably goes through the irons and with the woods, or the woods and the irons. It's something that he's practiced. It works for him. It gets him in the zone. And that's the whole point about practice. It gets you in the zone. The practice may not be as good as you want it to be. But the point is, you've actually practiced those things. And as you said, the right to left and left to right, the hinge wristing, someone texted me the other day and said, it's relieved all my tension. I don't have as much tension when I'm swinging the club. Yeah. And the point is, that's great if that works for you. So all we're giving is some simple examples of what people can do that works. There's a very famous book called 10,000 Hours by Ericsson. And it basically says, if you practice 10,000 hours, and the thing is, if you have focused practice, which is what we're trying to give you, focused practice, 10,000 hours, you'll be an expert. Actually, if you ask the top people in any sport, they probably do less than that to become good at their trade. But we've just seen the World Cup, and there's a great quote by Messi, and I'm not going to repeat it completely, but basically he says, after 17 years and so many days and so many hours, I've now achieved. Because he's got the World Cup. That was his Everest. That was, and look at what Messi has done over the years. A number of Ballon d'Ors. He's been in one of the highest players around the world. He's always talked of in being, either close to Maradona or Pele or equivalent of, we've always put Messi on a pinnacle. But his idea of absolute success was picking up that World Cup.
Definitely.
So good for him. What we want you to do is to pick up your own little World Cup on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So that's the little wins, the quick wins you can have. So we've got a surprise for you. We haven't won these for any reason apart from we're going to give you an early Christmas present. So you tell the viewers what we're going to give them.
So behind me, you can see, is your mind fit for golf? ? We wrote this book well, I don't know how many years ago we wrote it down now.
Yeah, we're old.
A few years. We certainly talked about it for a long time. It's certainly been in my head a long time before I met you in 2013. Chapter 6 of Is Your Mind Fit for Golf is all about attitude. I see and hear too many golfers going onto the practice range before they go out to play golf, trying to get it right. Your time on the practice range is about warming up. It's about getting the calibration right for that day. It's also the right time to be getting your attitude right as well. And the key thing is to be committed to the shot you're about to play and be able to give yourself the right kind of feedback after you've played. So no emotional reaction, no negative. We know that as soon as you have an emotional reaction, you've cut off the learning aspect of that golf shot. Okay, so the very, very simple drill that is explained at the end of chapter 6. We're going to talk about it now, and then you're going to get the whole chapter is going to be yours to read and reread, because we've already been talking about layering. It's like watching a movie, isn't it? We watch a movie once and we think it's great. Then we watch it again and we see something else that we didn't see the first time around. Yes, that's that layering process in perfect, as a perfect example there. So I'm going to ask all the golfers who are doing this is to raise their awareness of how they are on the golf course and to have their playing partners to do the same. To do this, all you need is a humble scorecard. Yeah, all you need to do is come into my golf shop if you play at Melton, go into your own golf shop wherever you play, and you take out a scorecard as well as the scorecard you might keep your score on. With this scorecard, you're going to keep a simple record of how your attitude is for the whole 18 holes for every single shot you play. Really, really quite simple. You play a shot. After the shot, if you knew that you'd made a good decision, were committed to the shot, you give yourself a tick. If there's no emotional response, no negative emotional response after that shot, if it wasn't quite what you wanted, you give yourself a tick. If there was any emotional reaction would include a, oh no, all those elements.
Four right.
Yeah. So you give yourself a cross. And you do that for every single shot you play, including your putts, everything that you do. Now, you may need help from your playing partners to recognize if you do certain things, because some people have created habits in such a way they don't even know they're doing it. So you may need some help just to make sure you're reinforcing and doing the right things. Very, very simply, at the end of the round, you count how many ticks you've got and how many crosses you've got. Okay, now we're more than hopeful that if you've been watching these videos and subsequent videos that we're going to do run into 2023 in the new year, is we would expect to see more ticks than we get crosses. There are going to be crosses. We are human beings, and human beings are emotional beings. So we know there's going to be crosses. But if we can begin to have more ticks than we get crosses, then we know we're heading in the right direction. And it's all explained at the end of chapter 6. Chapter 6 is all about attitude, behavior, mindset. That's where we need to start. That's the foundation we're going to build everything else on. And if, as I put something out yesterday on LinkedIn about Ben Stokes and the England cricket team, and he says, whatever happens, win or lose, we're going to win or lose with a smile on our face. And I used to sign off my emails or messages years ago with keep smiling. Because why not? Because it's so important. You know, giving somebody else and sharing that smile with somebody you pass in the street might just make their day. And it certainly made your day if you're walking around smiling. So keep it simple. All we're asking you to do is commit to your shot, assess what happened after the shot, which we'll get to in maybe the next video or the next couple of videos after. So we'll help you to understand how to create the right feedback. And then all you'd have to do is score yourself with a tick or a cross. And remember, it's about being honest. There's only one person you're kidding if you're giving yourself a tick and you know you had that little bit of an emotional reaction. So just be fair, but keep it simple.
And that's the whole point. Keep it simple. And we've spent some time together over the last over 10 years now, you and I, and we've tried to put simplicity at the forefront of what we do. Any fool can make it complicated. Any idiot can write a book, frankly. And when we've put this book out there, we've asked people, did you enjoy the book? Oh, yeah, really enjoyed reading the book. Yeah, it's great. What did you do with it? Oh, well, what do you mean, what did you do with it? So our point is, we've given you an exercise at the end of every chapter. Now, that exercise has been carefully thought out so that you can get the best from the chapter. And as Tony's explained, in words of one syllable, how you can have a second scorecard going round the course that you love, and you can now measure your own attitude. But you can only do it if you're honest. And let's face it, I played golf the other week, and, I'm not perfect, even though we've written the book together, we're not perfect either. We're human beings. And if the shot doesn't go as well as I wanted it to go, my initial reaction is going to say, God, blimey, that didn't work out quite well, did it? And I might have a little chuckle to myself, and everyone thinks, what's he laughing at himself for? He's just gone in the water. I said, well, that's what life is. I've gone in the water. I didn't actually aim to go in the water. Now, there might be a surprise for everybody. But my point is, it went in. Now I've got to deal with it. And if you can it's not just having a positive attitude. It's having an attitude so that you can get over it. I've gone through most of my life being what they call devil's advocate, because if you don't have someone who's a devil's advocate, you can never really get the best solution. But all that meant was people said, oh, you're very negative. Well, actually, that's how it comes over to you. But inside, I'm actually bringing out things that you've never thought of. So you may see them as negative. I'm actually seeing them as getting a better result.
Yeah.
So this is where we're all different. And that's why the book can be read in many, many different ways. But the actions at the end of every chapter are only about you. And that's what sets us apart from everybody else. So we're going to give you this chapter, but we don't want you to just read it. We want you to read it, read it, read it again, because we want it to be almost like second nature. Not that you can repeat every word. We don't want that. We want you to understand what's been written, why it's been written, including the typo. So the first person that tells us where the typo is will send you the complete book. There you go. There's a little extra Christmas present. But you've got to find where the typo is. Hopefully there's only one, but you never know. We might find another one. So again, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas and look forward to seeing you in the new year. But please download the book, follow the link in the video, and we'll see you in the new year. Merry Christmas. It's good night from me.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and it's good night from me too.
Good night. We'll see you soon.
Good night. Bye.